we bend but we don't break. We put a lot of work in over practice the past few weeks, just, preparing week by week. And this week, I feel like we worked the hardest we ever worked, and it showed today.
Was it hard to get ready for this game knowing the coach was going to be on Saturday?
In a way, impossible, because no one's replaced. He's an uncle to all of us. I played at Hamden. He was on staff. He's raised all of us in his own way, our fathers and he. No one's replacing Coach.
I've had one attempted field goal all year, and that came last week against Loomis. And, it's just exciting getting out there. That's all anybody dreams for. That's all any kicker could imagine. And it's the best feeling ever, seeing you come off your foot, go through the uprights, in any situation, especially in a situation like that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Meat Grinder, your weekly dose of high school football in Connecticut. And I'm your host, Sean Patrick Bully. With me, as always, is Pete the Guaga. Peter, what's up?
Nothing. A lot's changed within the last 7 days of us doing this. A lot has changed. Not even on the field.
Not on the field, off the field, every which way. It just seems like a lot has happened this week, and now we are in daylight savings time territory. Everything's dark. That's why my room is completely dark right now. It's been a long Monday. We're recording this Monday, November 6th, and it's just been a long weekend, and then that's to be expected. This time of year is always tough, between football, getting down to the nitty gritty, and all the other state playoffs that are kicking off right now. It's just a really hectic kind of week. So, but thanks, there's going to be a lot to get to this today. We're going to try and get to it as best as possible. What do you got, Pete?
Could you imagine though if the football state playoffs were starting this weekend and this was our playoff preview episode?
Yeah, I guess. What Pete's referring to is the alliance with the big news this week. It was before we recorded last week, we were hearing grumblings about it, and finally we just kind of told our reporter Mike Foner about to rip the Band-Aid off and call Al Carbone, who was just itching to get this proposal out. Him, Jim Bunicor over the ECC, and even Mark Berkowitz over at Weston had a hand in it. Big alliance proposal. Al has been dying to put this out, and he loves it. He's talked about it for years. His grand plan to fundamentally change the way Connecticut football is run, essentially molding it into his own image. No more Thanksgiving. Get rid of it. We'll play all the big rivalry games on Columbus weekend or thereabouts. 9-game schedules, 8 of which are versus teams of your own size. So semi-district model there, that's not too bad. I actually like that. But also still 6 playoff divisions and 12 now playoff teams. Gets what? 72? What was the
72. It was close to 52% of teams. You have a better shot in the new system. In the new proposal, you have a better shot at making the playoffs than you do an all FCAC team.
Yeah. So, and Al did the tour all weekend long. He was on this show. He was on that show. So, if you want to go see Al talk about it, you can read all about it in our on GameTimeCT, CT Insider. We talk about the playoffs and what they need to do, what we think they need to do to fix it constantly here. There's not a whole lot, Pete, I can kind of say about this. I know Al mentioned my name a few times on some of these shows. And, I will say off the top, here's my first take. Number one is the couple things I will say that are good about this is one, they want to do schedule by class. So you want to play in a division. You want to go to the playoffs, you play teams in your division. That's great. I actually think that's a good idea. But the way it looked to me is they wanted to do it by your results. They want to do what basically the SEC does, which is you play, if you're good, if you do well, then you play all the tough teams. And if you don't do well, you play all the not so tough teams. And somewhere in there, the twain will meet. And I don't think so. You're missing the essence of football there. And I know a lot of coaches kind of basically signaling they have no desire to run all the way across the state just to play a balanced schedule, which there needs to be a balanced schedule. But you're missing out what football is all about here. And what football is all about is playing your next door neighbors, playing your rivals, playing, teams that are next door, the kids that you see all over the place, the kids that you see at the mall or at the restaurants, or the kids you just see that you've been playing with all your lives. That is what we should be doing here. And this idea that we need to get rid of Thanksgiving to add more playoff teams, why are we getting rid of 100 years of tradition? Now, granted, not everyone in the state does it, but the teams that do it very well. And I can attest to the fact that Thanksgiving football in some of these towns that still do it, Ansonia and Naughty being one, obviously Darien, Buchanan, relatively new, only the last 25 years or so on Thanksgiving, but they have completely embraced it. And I also, lastly, hate the idea that you play your rival in the middle of the season where there's no build-up. You just build up to one game there in the middle, like not even the middle of the season, like 2 weeks in. Not a fan of that. You're basically, football is an event. Football is you build up to a week. You gotta, those games mean a heck of a lot. They need to mean something. And then to just kind of take that all away and say, like, well, if you go 5-5 or 6-4, then, everyone gets in. Not a fan of that. So the tradition, don't like that. I think there's ways you can still do it with keeping Thanksgiving and stop with the playoff teams. Enough's enough. And then just having our schedules be these power schedules that he does. No, we need to be regional. That is my quick take on it. Pete, you've had some good thoughts when we were talking about this over the weekend. Give me your 2 cents.
We talked about this years ago. There's an old episode from 2019 where we talked about Thanksgiving and what it means and how if they get rid of it and this and that and the other thing. And, we expanded 2 years ago. We are in year 2 of 6 divisions, 8 teams. And that passed, again, whatever was on the survey was on the survey. But the number that that Hamden coach Tom Dyer told us when the story broke that they were going to have 6 divisions was that it was approved by 88% of the membership to expand playoffs. Now, this is a lot more than just expanding playoffs on the table, but there is clearly a majority of people that want to expand playoffs. Now, whether they want to expand it to 12 from 8, completely different, but everyone wants to go into the playoffs. That was the sentiment that came out 2 years ago. Now, the thing is, you can't have it both ways, right? If we go to 12 and we still have Thanksgiving, we're going to be playing into the new year. Yeah. That can't not happen. That I would stop. Me personally, I would just stop doing this as a whole.
New Year's bowl game.
Screw that. See you later. I'm out of here. But so where are we on this? I think when we moved to the 8 divisions, the coaches being in majority favor of it, we kind of left that door open of saying hey, we want more teams in the playoffs. And this is what I think they're trying to take advantage of. So I think the coaches got to take a little bit of the blame here for even this becoming, because they want participation. They want expansion to the playoffs. How many coaches told us if we're in it for longer, the kids are going to stay more engaged. We're going to get more kids to sign up. This is what they wanted 2 years ago. Okay. And now it's coming. Now it's coming even more. So they got to take a little bit of a blame here for this, because you can't have expansion and keep Thanksgiving. It's not going to work for this quote unquote expansion. That said, it is a proposal. And with the proposal, everyone's freaking out here. One proposals can be changed, they can be altered, they can be amended, they can be fixed before they even go. Yeah. But a lot of people don't read. I don't know how many comments said blaming the CIAC for proposing this. The CIAC did not propose this. This was proposed by the Alliance, which basically the CIAC has given full reign to do whatever they want with football. But let's read these stories that we do before we start commenting on things that we don't know about. Because everyone sounds like a bunch of dummies. I know, but it's just it's really frustrating. They're blaming these. Oh, it's parents. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things I'd like to blame parents for. The football proposal is not one of them. It's amazing. Look, I don't like it. I I think 12. I mean, regardless of Thanksgiving, I think 12 teams in 6 divisions is the dumbest thing that they could do. I mean, the absolute dumbest thing that they could do. But if they're coming to talk about this so publicly, I think it's got something behind it, because I don't think that they would be out here doing the media rounds if there was not some, potential that this could happen.
Yeah.
That's the thing that concerns me, is like, if they were a little skeptical. I mean, Mike Fornabayo has quotes from Al, Bunicor, and Berkowitz. He got all 3 of them in one day. Mm-hmm. Trying to get an admin or a coach on the phone now is like the hardest thing, because no one ever picks up the phone. He got 3 in less than 3 hours. They definitely have a feeling that this is going to happen.
Right. Yet, when you talk to a lot of the coaches, a lot of them here, I read all the comments. We had a couple stories on it and the reactions to it. And a lot of them were very skeptical. A lot of them didn't like just 9 games. A lot of them were obviously Tom Brockett from Ansonia, Mr. Thanksgiving himself, adamant. And his big quote was, play your Thanksgiving rival on Columbus Day. That's like you'll get some of your gifts for Christmas at Easter, which I thought was pretty funny. Lou Marinelli actually brings up a good point, and I don't know, I think it might have got lost. He said, talk to some of the coaches in Westchester County. If you're not having a good season, you play Columbus Day. That's your rivalry game, right? You lose there, and a kid says, Coach, I'm a really good basketball player or a really good wrestler. I'm going to switch now. He goes, worse programs get worse. And there's some truth to that. If you look at Section 1 in Westchester, Tappan Z forfeited a game versus, I forget who it was, Porter begins with P. But so Tappan Z forfeited a game because they were kind of done with their season. And Section 1 does this. They play like a 6-game schedule. Then they start their playoffs in early November, and then they're wrapped up before the New York State championships, the New York State playoffs, which begin I think mid-November. They start late October. And to me, that's not even football. Football is not about 800 teams getting into the playoffs. I've said that a billion times here. You've got to preserve the sanctity. I hate to say it that way, but the sanctity of the regular season. This is a community sport, a community event, the one that brings them all out to the games, throughout the year. Now, they're not going to all go to all the games, but you don't see it that nearly as many people at any other type of game, maybe save for basketball and the odd lacrosse game. Hockey's they pack them in too. But football is just in its own realm, and you build up. It's an event. The whole town comes out where people meet and greet and talk. And to say that you're going to get 10,000 fans from New Canaan, Darien, and Columbus Day, you're out of your mind. And Louis,
I don't think you're getting 10,000 fans on Thanksgiving anymore.
Well, that was they did recently. They've done it recently, and the reason
at Boyle, right?
At Boyle Stadium, and the reason why they did was, I don't think you're getting a ton. They're not; those crowds are not. But the reason why, because they're both undefeated, right? They were both undefeated, and it was for. It wasn't. I don't remember if it was. No, it wasn't for playoff berth. They were going to both get in anyway, but it was for the FCAC championship. There was a title behind it, and they were both undefeated. So people came out in droves for those games.
Yeah.
If you ever want any type of, it was great. I'd never seen so many people. It was overflowing. And then they did it almost again. There was an 8,000 year one and a 10,000 year one. So you're not getting that on Columbus Day. You're just not going to get it. The reason being is because, well, first of all, there's a lot of people who are coming from out of town, not just alumni, not just former players, but people come out from out of town before they go to dinner. They're all going to go to the Thanksgiving Day game down the street, and they show up because, they'll see their friends, blah, blah, blah. Even the ones who play on, I know they don't all play on Thanksgiving anymore, but even the ones who play the night before, they come out in droves for those games. And not as much as on Thanksgiving, but it's still an event before they go out to wherever else they're going.
It's definitely an event in the minority of Thanksgiving games. I mean, we've been to so many Thanksgiving games that no one goes to. I mean, so many Thanksgiving Eve games where no one goes to. So many Tuesday night Thanksgiving games that no one goes to. And I love the history of the Ansonia Naugatuck, the Green Bowl, the Stoddard Bowl, even the Apple Valley is not even that, long in terms of history. I've been to Darien, New Canaan. It's great. Those are all great.
Years.
But there are a lot of games that both teams don't really care.
No,
I mean, look, And that's the problem. Is that's a majority. That is a majority of the coaches. That is a majority of the administrators who are going to be having a say in this decision. If you're Danbury or Ridgefield, you're looking around, you're going, who the hell cares about our game on Wednesday night? I mean, we cover that every year because they're both local papers, schools to our papers. And like, we send a photographer and we have a reporter. And like, you look at those fans and you're like, you look at the stands and you're like, what? I was at Barlow Weston last year on Wednesday night. Danny Shaven, player of the year, is playing in this game. No one's there. So like, those are the majority of the people that are going to be making this decision.
I'll push back a little bit. I've seen some great Wednesday night games, even for the Wednesday night crowd. Well, I was at Weston Barlow on Thanksgiving in 2012. It was mobbed. They were also playing for playoff spots. So that's a part of it. There are a lot of games, but there are also, I think that we undersell it a little bit. Sure, it may not be as big as but I still think that still brings out a lot. Now, were they going to half these games? No, Ridgefield, Danbury probably is a bad one, but they come out in droves for New Canaan State. That place is always mobbed for that. Yep. So I would say there's more often than not, especially Massac Newtown mobbed. It's always mobbed for that one. Really depends on kind of like the tradition of the team and where they stand and everything. But you're right.
If they're successful or not. Look, we went to Wilton Ridgefield 2 years ago in the middle of the season, and it was packed.
Yeah, it was packed for that one. Yeah.
They were both good though.
Right. And that helps. But overall, I think you just lose the build up, and then you lose it was always, you could play, if you didn't have a good season, you could always play for that one game at the end of the year that everyone actually cared about. Otherwise, you're just playing a game at the end. And that is a big thing for me. And the other thing is, I don't like to lose. I don't like to lose you spend a whole week preparing for a game. And if you lose, it's crushing. And if you win, it's thrilling. But to kind of nerf that by saying, just add some more playoff teams so nobody gets left out. And as your point was saying, your point was, now you have so many teams that are getting in. It's like, well, what's special about the regular season anymore? There's nothing. There's nothing because everyone gets in. It's like, what are we playing for? Why does any of this matter? You're looking at it right now. Even with 6 divisions, it's really tough. Look, I said to Pete before we started, we can't go too long on this, and yet here we are, like 10 minutes in. It's like, ooh, boy. But listen, we have our takes on. We talk about it constantly. I dislike this. I still think we can do this, bounce schedules out without getting rid of Thanksgiving. In fact, I'll even go on the record saying, like, you know what? Compared to 6 divisions, which I can't stand, I'll take this every day of the week and twice on Thanksgiving, as long as we keep Thanksgiving football. So there you go.
Why don't we just keep it now, do state schedules, play your rivals on Thanksgiving? Ta-da! I solved all the problems.
Yeah. And then less teams. The problem is the more teams you put in the playoffs, the harder it is to claw them back.
Yeah. Well, look, and this is part of the proposal that a lot of people are not talking about, which is kind of driving me a little crazy because everyone is just talking about Thanksgiving, and I get it. There's a whole proposal, not just that, and the big thing is starting earlier. And I think that that's going to hurt a lot of the smaller schools, the city schools, the schools that have kids who show up on the first day of school to try out for the team, even though the team's been practicing for weeks. We had a school in, Weaver in Hartford wasn't allowed to hire a coach until the budget was set in the middle of the summer. How are they going to prepare to get together earlier? VGW Tech, I was talking to Doug Jackson. He was expecting 10 to 15 more kids to show up when the school year started. How are they supposed to, if they're relying on 10 or 15 kids to start at the beginning of the school year, how are they going to start 2 weeks earlier?
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into this. And we'll talk to Joe Stochmal from Oxford, a member of the football committee. He's got some interesting things to say. He's on the NVL side of things. The NVL, as you know, is not part of the alliance. So he's kind of coming from that angle. He's also part of the football committee, not speaking for the football committee, but he'll give us his opinions on that and why he thinks that maybe he doesn't like it. And so, away we go. But, with all that said, again, we'll talk about it ad nauseum until cows come home. We'll even talk to Joe about whether this has legs going into next season too. I don't think so. We'll see. So let's just go start with the top 10. Lots happened this week. Obviously, the big game that you went to, Pete, was Maloney versus Southington at the top of the show. You saw that 20-18. That was a big game. I was at the North Haven Cheshire game. North Haven knocks number 2 Cheshire off in that one. So without Tony Sagnella on the sideline for North Haven. So, an eventful week. Notre Dame-Fairfield also lost. So let's take a look at the top 10 poll for week 10 as we head into week 10, Pete. My goodness, we got a couple weeks left after this. Here we go.
I'm going to apologize in advance for my my audio. It's been kind of going on and out all day. But beginning with number 10, Shelton, which pulled away from Hamden last week, 42-28. Hamden was within 21 from halftime, but David Dodge-Licko, who's had a great season, had 229 yards of total offense and 3 TDs. Mike Kinnick, 10 of 19 for 247 yards and 4 TDs. The Gales are looking in good position in Class L. Number 9 is Ansonia. The Chargers took out Woodland, moved to 8-0, and probably clinched a Class S playoff spot in the process. Now the Chargers play host to Oxford in a Valley Battle of Unbeatens at Jarvis Stadium Thursday night. Other than Maloney, Southington, that was the big game in the southern half of the state last week, Pete. Banneker Field, first time there since they redid it. They did the field house, the scoreboard looked nice, but the field is still grass. So I walked on the field, all's good, talked to some of the coaches. We talked a bit about this game and this thing and that. I go over to talk with Michael Kobolansky, the Alberta's Magnus athletic director, whose son is a senior receiver for Cheshire. And the big news beforehand was the absence of Cheshire's Matt Jeffery Player of the Year candidate, who's been playing sparingly throughout the last month, at least since they beat Fairfield Prep 14-0 in the rain. We didn't know what the situation was with him going into the game, but immediately it became apparent he was not going to play. He was street clothes. He's been dealing with a hamstring injury for the better part of the last month. So Cheshire was without him, and immediately that was going to be trouble for the Rams. But the other missing guy was Tony Sagnella, the North Haven coach. It probably took me until North Haven's first touchdown before it dawned on me that Sagnella was not in attendance for this game. He's typically the can't-miss guy on the sideline. He's the biggest guy in the field. He's like 6'5", so you can't miss him. But from the Cheshire side, it wasn't quite so obvious. I tried to zoom in with the camera, and at halftime, I finally went over to Michael Fornabayo and Mike Kobolansky, and I'm like, you also know someone else missing from this? And they both said Sagnella. But if you were watching the game action, you did not notice the difference. Cheshire had some drives, but just couldn't finish them off. And North Haven in the single wing did its thing. 3 yards and a cloud of dust, or mud in this example. The big killer for Cheshire, same with West Haven 2 weeks ago, was they just could not come up with a big stop. North Haven converted 5 of 5 fourth downs and scored on 4 of them to put this game away. And look, we talk a lot about Adam Pandolfi. He's the vet and the spokesman, and he made some great defensive plays and converted some of those fourth downs. But the 2 guys who really moved the chains for them is Tristan Dose and Cam Thompson coming out of the single wing, and what bruisers they are. Thompson ran for 107 yards on 20 carries, and Dose was just carrying guys all over the field. He scored North Haven's first touchdown to give them a 7-0 lead. Cheshire only managed to tie this game when North Haven misplayed a punt, and it was recovered, giving Cheshire the ball deep in North Haven's own end. Nick Miller scored to tie it up 7-7. Thompson, though, busted loose on a long run to set up North Haven's second touchdown, his own short run, and later, just before the half, running out of time, North Haven kicked the 31-yard field goal, Ventrano, for a 17-7 halftime lead. Second half was lots of North Haven defense. They tacked on one more touchdown from Dose, and that was it. Afterward, defensive coordinator Alex Filarity couldn't say much to us about why Sagnella wasn't in attendance, but he and all of the players said they were playing for their coach.
Was it hard to get ready for this game knowing the coach was going to be on Saturday?
In a way, impossible, because no one's replaced. He's an uncle to all of us. I played at Hamden. He was on staff. He's raised all of us in his own way, our fathers and he. No one's replacing coach. On the other hand, there's amazing leadership in 12th grade at North Haven. It was a rough week last week. So in a way, it was easy because these kids know how to handle it. They took the town on their back tonight and did the right thing.
We definitely knew that this one was going to be for him. We got the news about 2 hours before the game, and we were shocked. But that's what happens. That's what happens. You roll the punches. We dealt with a situation like this against Darien, and so we know how to face adversity. So that's what we did today, and we pulled out the win.
We knew he wasn't going to be here, and we just had to come out and do this for him, pretty much. And we just all came together, and we pulled it off.
Were you surprised at coaching the game?
We were surprised, but we knew that we were just going to do it for him.
What did North Haven do tonight? Played North Haven football. I love how the band says this is North Haven, this is NH football, and it was North Haven football tonight. It was good enough D, great O, and good enough kicking game to put it together.
Also heard from Adam Pandolfi and Tristan Dose, and we reached out to Sagnella, we reached out to athletic director Steve Blumenthal, and we reached out to the North Haven superintendent to see what was the story there. We still hadn't heard anything as of Monday when we were recording this, but we don't know why he was suspended, or apparently suspended. We don't know what the situation was there, whether it had anything to do with their forfeited game at the beginning of the season. Remember, they forfeited the game due to inappropriate student conduct. Frankly, we just don't know what the situation is. We're not going to speculate. So North Haven has a bye week coming up. But frankly, you don't suspend your coach before one of the biggest games of the season without having a good reason to do so. Velarde said it had nothing to do with his health. So that was good. They look for a speedy return. We shall see. North Haven has a bye week coming up, and before they have the Hamden and Amity closed it out. They're looking good in Class M, but right now the status of their head coach is in question. So number 7 is North Haven. Number 6 is Cheshire. Interestingly, did not fall past North Haven after they were suffering their first loss. Maybe the voters are giving them a little bit of a break. I don't really know. Jeffrey is out for the foreseeable future. TBA on his return. The quarterback status is also up in the air. He got hurt late in the game. It didn't look good from our perspective, but Don Druss did not know quite what the situation was. But right now he said, look, we have enough guys on this team to be a good football team. And obviously losing Matt Jeffrey hurts right for now, but we have guys who can do the job.
I mean, I think we're confident in every guy in that room, and there's a mentality in that room of that, Listen, I'd be silly to sit here and say we don't want Matt Jeffrey on the field. Of course we want Matthew Jeffrey on the field. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, there's 71 other guys in that room that have to stand up and do their job and work really hard and do all that. And we have guys that can do that. Gonzalez is tremendous. We have guys that are tremendous and do a really, really good job. So to me, it's yeah, of course I want him on the field. But at the end of the day, I have a ton of confidence of a lot of other people in that room to go out there and do the job to help us go win football games and be successful.
Gut check time suddenly in Cheshire. They've got West Haven this week, and then they wrap up with Southington in both games. Without Jeffrey, it's going to be tough, but at least the Southington game, a couple more weeks down the road after West Haven. But it is gut check time because Class MM, it is tough right now. Number 5 is Staples. Have won 7 straight games since their opening loss to West Haven. Looking pretty great. Anthony Armentano tying a state record, returning 2 kickoffs or touchdown in the same game, 91 and 83 yards, as the records rip past former coach Mark Petrosio and Trumbull, 35-18. They get a tough game Friday night for St. Joseph before playing at Greenwich in the Thanksgiving finale. Staples, like West Haven and like Greenwich, has likely clinched from Class below. We'll get to that. So this is all about seeding. But St. Joe right there for their playoff lives. So that'll be a fascinating game. Number 4, New Canaan defeated Bridgeport Central 42-6. Alex Benevento had 2 pick sixes, tying the state record himself, of 5 New Canaan interceptions. They're looking good for an L playoff spot. Number 3 is West Haven. They hammered Notre Dame West Haven 46-6 to win the Soderman Bowl. Nick Conlon completed 9 of 10 passes for 142 yards and 3 touchdowns. DeMarco Eddy 2 TD catches. They get Cheshire this week. Number 2 is Maloney, beating Southington 20-18. And number 1 is Greenwich, beating West Hill 43-8. In their last road game of the season, again, they've clinched a Class L playoff spot. But getting back to Maloney, Pete, a big game. 20-18 over Southington at Fontana Field. in a rematch of last year's Classic. Pete, another Classic. What happened?
Yeah, it was wild. Just for the record, I had Maloney 2 for the last couple of weeks. They lost to Greenwich on like a last-second field goal. But boy, let me tell you, it was not great at the beginning. Southington puts 12 points on the board to open the game. Owen Hunt with a 10-yard touchdown run, kick failed. Then my guy, Richard Williams, with a pick six. Immediately on the next drive, pick six, 30 yards to the house. Went for 2, didn't get it. A real barn burner, 12-0 in the second quarter. And then Dante Kelly did Dante Kelly things. Kickoff return, Marquise Ward. They're not kicking to Dante Kelly because they're smart. But Ward, little end around to Kelly. Kelly's gone 55 yards to the house for the touchdown. They, of course, missed the kick, so it's 12-6. Just a weird game to start. And Aiden Lynch, Maloney's defensive line coach, former coach at Lyman Hall and special teams coach, they just put that play in this past week to try and get Dante Kelly the ball. Dante Kelly has 3 kick returns for a touchdown. He has returned 6 kicks this year. My math people at home, that is 50% of the time he returns a kick, he takes it to the house. My guy is dangerous. But that brings him to 12-6. And then your boy, you came on the show weeks ago to talk about your boy, Jesus Martell. He steps up, touchdown pass, 23 yards from Ethan Nadinsky. They get the kick. They go up 13-12 at halftime, and it's just an ugly game. Martell then catches another pass late to make it 20-12. God, the numbers with the misses all over the place. Southington goes right down the field towards the end of the game. Blake Stephans catches a touchdown pass from CJ to Benedetto. They go for 2 in the tie. Maloney defense holds after taking not 1, but 2 penalties on the conversion. Kelly got called for a hold in the end zone, which was a little touch and go. And then they got called for jumping offside. So Southington was literally on the half-yard line. And they came out in the Wildcat with Evan Anderson. It looked just like, it was the same formation they used to beat Greenwich last year. And Evan got stuffed at the line. Maloney held on. They're 7-1. Maloney is now 2-1 against Southington since they started playing yearly in 2021. And each game has come down to the final minute. I mean, this is turning into one of those really, really fun rivalries that you have to be at every year. And, our guy, Kevin Frederick, friend of the program, he had some great things to say after the game and just, kind of talked about how his kids didn't flinch and, he was really proud of the way that they played.
Well, we talked about that all week, as far as the, making sure you take care of the highs and lows of the game. They're a good football team. They've been here. They've been the kings of the CCC. So we knew it's going to be, ups and downs. We had to battle through that. We played in a ton of big games here at Maloney, and this is just another one. We were down 12-0 there, never flinched. And just kept pushing, and we got the big play capability. We got a ton of playmakers all over the field. So when you got those guys out there, it's just hard to, it's just just can't panic with those guys.
2 penalties in a row and a 2-point conversion. They take a touchdown. That's the same play he came out against Greenwich with last year with Evan in the backfield. Yeah. What did you say to the guys when you were coming out after that second penalty? They're on the half-yard line.
Yeah, we did our homework on that play. We talked about that all week. We had that film still. We knew Evan's a special kid. He's super talented. He could throw it. He could run it. So, Dante got the hold there, questionable. But, they go, to the inch line, and we stuff him there. I mean, he's a tough kid, too, hard worker in the weight room. I know that for sure. So to be able to stuff him at the goal line, just a special thing.
And then, my guy, Dante Kelly, I asked him, I was like, dude, you got to take me through that kickoff return. And, he kind of talked about Coach Lynch and how they added it into the playbook this week, and you saw it pay off.
Down 12-0, they're kicking off. Was that kind of drawn up before you guys went out there? Like, hey, if they kick it here, we're going to run the reverse?
Yeah, we said it auto reverse. We're working on it all week, and it finally worked out. It worked out a good time. I wanted to say thank you to my coach because he called it a really good play.
So you guys installed it this week?
Yeah.
I mean, in that point, no one's going to kick to you anymore. I'm just letting you know that. I think I've said it 1,000 times. Stop kicking to them. But, for them, to put the ball in your hand, did you feel like you had to make a play? Like, hey, if we're going to call this play, I'm going to have to make a play here?
Yeah, of course. I feel like if we had to call that, I knew it had to be 6 for us. We're down, we needed momentum, and my team's blocked, and I saw a hole, and then I just took off.
Well, let me tell you, this is the first time I've seen Maloney in person this year. And I was kind of got a little crap from the Maloney sideline because, like, usually I see him like 2 or 3 times a year. I was the guy who would go to Hartford, but, with, obviously having, Carl Adamick working up there for us, since we purchased the Journal-Inquirer, and then, Meyer Lee, obviously we have a Hartford reporter now. So, I don't have to go up there anymore. And it's actually kind of sad because I miss seeing Maloney. They were actually not happy with me, which is the least surprising thing of all time. They're always mad at me. But you want to know why they were mad at me this week, Sean? Because 12 of us picked them in the picks.
Oh.
I'm like, Kevin,
win,
you guys are becoming good. I'm sorry, you are too good that everyone's going to pick you now.
Too good.
So, yeah.
Maloney, though, I mean, look, they are whisker away from being undefeated and being the number 1 team in the state right now. But, I guess they got Glastonbury coming up this week. Is that right?
Yeah, they do. I was joking. No, they have Connard. I'm sorry. They have Connard and Connard and Platt. Platt is also 7-1.
Yeah.
That Stoddard Bowl is going to be very interesting.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I mean, they got Connor this week and then the Stoddard Bowl and your boy Jason Bruin off to a great start. They only lost the 1 game. So Platt, looking to maybe ruin their Thanksgiving. Who knows? Another reason why we should keep it on Thanksgiving. I love that term, that you ruin their turkey. Both teams are going to the play. I mean, I think Platt's not clinched yet. They still got to win at least 1 more game. I think 1 more game would do it for them in Double M, but we'll see. But hey, look, that's pretty good. Speaking of the playoffs, let's kind of take a look at that. We're going to kind of run it down through. We'll start at Class S, and go up because the big news in Class S, other than Oxford and Ansonia 8-0 playing this Thursday, was Notre Dame-Fairfield, the team we sung a ton of praises about last week, going down at home at Sacred Heart to Bunnell, 14-12. Pete, Steven Mendoza ran for 2 touchdowns in the first half. Michael Ricketts, what a game he had. An interception in the end zone to thwart a threat. And then thwarted the last drive of the game with a pickoff. So that's 2 pickoffs for Ricketts. Bunnell knocked them off 14-12. It might have been 14-6. Their defense was playing so great. But Notre Dame, Damon Hibbert, I think he was a sophomore, plucked the ball out of the runner's hands and went 60-something yards the other way to get them within 2 points. The 2-point conversion pass, though, failed. Bunnell with their big win in Class 1. We'll get to that.
They need it. Brick by brick, baby. They need it brick by brick.
That was a big brick. That was a boulder. So, as far as Bunnell getting back to the playoffs, but Notre Dame-Fairfield still in great shape, 7-1. But, they get Stratford and Pomfrog level. But let's look at these standings. Bloomfield, 7-0. Bloomfield, call your games there. Please tell us what the final score was. I know they beat up on East Catholic, but oh, jeez. I couldn't find a score for that until someone yelled at me that we didn't have the right score in there because nobody's reported it. You guys got to report the score. So, but Bloomfield 7-0, and you got Oxford and Ansonia. They're both in. I believe the calculation. I haven't done a ton of calculations, but it's pretty obvious. Notre Dame-Fairfield losing. Cromwell Portland 5-2. Griswold Wheeler Pete with a big win over Stonington. That's 2 losses in a row to Stonington. They fall away to 8. North Cranford actually hanging around at 4-3 because they've beaten a lot of teams with good records. Capital Prep, Plainfield's got a good record for them. Haddam Killingworth not so much, but Ellington's got now they have the 3 wins there. Lost Granby, lost Valley, and then lost Rockville, 2 of the best teams, but still hanging in there. Another team that's hanging in there is Morgan, Old Saybrook, Westbrook, Capital Prep, Woodland, but Class S is starting to come together here. A lot of these teams are probably going to get in if they can kind of win out. Moving up to Class Double S, kind of the poor little sister of Class S. You have Granby Canton. They're probably in. Coggins. We're getting a lot of flack from Coggins. Now they're all out there saying, "What about us? What about us?"
What about you? 1-3 0-1-4. What's that? 8. You beat of your 6 wins. They have a combined 11 wins. What do you mean about you?
Yeah. Well, all I know is
you got Cromwell, Portland. Go out and beat them, and then we'll talk about you.
Right. A lot of listen. That is just the truth of Cog and Chuck's schedule. New coaches, but it's hard to get a good gauge on them because all the teams they beat 1 or 0 losses. So finally they beat a correct team that's better, but that's only 3 losses there. Now we got the big one. You got Cromwell, Portland. You guys want to get into the get your press clippings? Beat them. Then we'll talk. That'll put them basically in the playoffs. Wyndham also in there. Colin, your boy Faraz, and Sheehan, the poster boy. Every time there's a playoff proposal out there, they all turn to Sheehan.
I picture John like seeing that, and he's just like, all right, guess I got to turn my ringer on now so I don't miss any phone calls.
Liz, they are the poster boy. The SEC does them no favors in that they play in Class SS, and they're in the middle tier of the SEC. We've gone 100 times over about the Sheen schedule. But anyway, they're in number 5. They're in good shape. G&H making their move up the standings a little bit. Foreign hanging in there 4-4. Plainville hanging in there. Man, Plainville, I didn't think who'd they lose the other week? Earlier in the season, I didn't
Bethel.
think Huh?
They lost to Bethel.
That's right. Lost to Bethel, which was winless and still hasn't won a game since. And but they've kind of been able to squeak in just ahead of Barlow, one of our dial-in teams. So that's a fascinating below the division there, but not the strongest of the divisions. Go to Class M, Northwest United. I think they're basically in. I mean, give or take. Rockville in good shape. Daniel Hand. We have not talked anything about Hand Pete since they won that thrilling game over Fairfield Prep. What was it, 35-34 in overtime? Was that what it was? Or no, it was regulation, wasn't it?
No, it was overtime.
It was overtime. Week 2, they haven't allowed a point since. How about that?
I mean, they played Xavier, shutting out Xavier. That's a good win. Xavier's a good tier 2 team. Hill House, Wilbercross, Law, Brantford, Amity. Good for you.
Well, I guess the fact
it's impressive. It is impressive.
All out, that's impressive.
That's impressive. Absolutely, not taking anything away, but Hand should win these games.
Yes, the wins aren't impressive.
Yeah,
but they shut.
Well, it's the same thing. It's the same thing about they want their press. We're getting messages. Someone got mad we didn't talk about their 62-0 win over Wilbercross. I wanted to respond to that person and be like, "You're Daniel Hand."
They know. Listen, that's the thing about Hand, that you might be an outlier. They know.
Except for that person.
Yeah, that might be an outlier. They know. I remember when they were in Tier 2 the last time when Dave Mastriani took over, and it was 2016. It was like, Dave, we're not going to go see you guys. Sorry. Because you guys are going to win all those games. Sure enough, they did. Finally, they had a big game. We showed up. And unfortunately, looking at Dan Hand's schedule, they got Sheehan, which would probably be the game we would show up at. I don't know. I mean, us, I guess. Maybe. We've covered a few of their games. We're just not talking about them here. Sheehan we'll talk about next week, and then obviously Guilford obviously is the big one. SMSA Co-op is number 4. ATI, Holy Cross, Berlin, getting back up there. Bullard Haven or Bullard Colby fighting for their playoff spot just ahead of St. Joseph. Man, I wish I had a nickel every time I talked about St. Joseph having to hold off Bullard Haven to get to the playoffs. Man.
Bullard Haven's got to hold off St. Joe's. Bullard Haven's is up.
Well, we'll see. The St. Joe's can go a long way if they somehow figure out a way to beat Staples this week. That will solve all their problems. They don't beat Staples, they're going to have to beat Trumbull and then hope things will break their way. That's the way it kind of looks there. E.O. Smith, Brantford, East Lyme at the bottom. So that's Class M. People, they're too bad you're going to get Hand, guys. But St. Joseph in there, you don't want St. Joe in there either. So moving over to the tougher ones. Here we go. Class Double M. Platt now your number 1 team. Windsor 7-1. They beat up on Manchester this week. That was a big one. So those 2 teams looking good. Wilton, remember Wilton? Wilton's going to make it. Now they're all the way up to number 3. North Haven, with that big win over Cheshire, really kind of cemented them. They should be okay. They got Hampton and Amity left. Number 5, Fitch, East Lyme, and Ledger will be favored in both of those games, but who knows? Cheshire now got West Haven and Southington left, as we said. That's going to be really tough. So they are, as Don Druss said, we would love to have Matt Jeffery back, but a lot of our guys need to start stepping up because we know they have it in them. So good for that's tough. That's going to be tough for them. Number 7 is NEPSAC, which 6-2. Lots of turmoil over there at NEPSAC. We don't know a whole lot, but as of Monday night, we can say that the interim coach, Brian Halpin, has resigned following Eric Giordano, the assistant who was suspended, out the door. So Eric Giordano announced he was going to resign. We were still waiting to find out what happens with Steve Christie, but some movement going on there. NEPSAC did not play Halpin, who'd been the interim coach all season. He left before the game, and NEPSAC was able to hold off Brookfield in a thriller, basically 31-20. But NEPSAC's got some other issues right now. They got New Milford this week. They're 6-2. They've got Newtown after that, 2 weeks after that, and on a Thanksgiving Eve. So NEPSAC in trouble. We'll see. Number 8, Bunnell. As we mentioned, Bunnell with a big win. That only gets them to 8, though, and they also got to hold out Guilford. Xavier, which lost to Fairfield Prep. Xavier kind of dropped out a little bit. Pomprog played great against Newtown. That's going to be tough. They're going to be beat Barlow, and then Notre Dame-Fairfield, they can beat them. That might help Pomprog. It's going to help out Pomprog a lot. This division, Pete, is ridiculous.
Yeah, they have more teams over 500 than Double L does.
Class L, Naugatuck. I think they're clinched. New Canaan, basically there. Newtown in a great spot. They got Bunnell, though, and NEPSAC. So they have some potential for someone to maybe knock Newtown off. Number 4 is Maloney. Number 4, my goodness. That's kind of tough. They just don't have a lot of teams to win. Newington not helping, really. Simsbury not helping. Glastonbury, New Britain only 4. Southington was their best win to date at 5-3. But they got Connor and they got Platt. The Platt one's going to give them all the points they need to get into this. I still think they make it even if they somehow lose that game. Number 5, Shelton, another one. Xavier and Wilton to finish out. Tough, but doable. We'll see about Shelton.
It beats getting those Derby points.
Yeah, that's a big point. That's a good point, Pete. Shelton actually gets more points now by not playing Derby. So there's a Thanksgiving game there. We're all glad this is no longer there. That's for sure. I mean, it was 100 years, and then Derby's got Oxford, and that's good enough for them. So anyway, number 6, Darien still hanging around at 6-2. We got Central and New Canaan to wrap up. Will that be enough? They might have to beat New Canaan to get in, because behind them is South Windsor with Rocky Hill and Enfield left. New Milford with NEPSAC and New Fairfield left. Killingly is trying to make a move. New London and Woodstock left. Enfield also. Fairfield Ludlow all the way down to 11 with Wilton and Ward left. The Wilton one for Ludlow beat must win, and that still doesn't help.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that game. We're gonna talk about that game on the picks, but it's gonna be a hope and a prayer and a Hail Mary for Ludlow.
Yeah, I mean, even Hall, which has been he knocked off Southington, they're sitting there at 5-3. So that's a tough division as well, Class L, and then you got a Class Double L, which basically it's Greenwich.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Greenwich 8-0, West Haven 7-1, Staples 7-1. I think they're all clinched, especially Greenwich. But the other two I think are clinched too. Manchester's there at number 4, even though they lost to Windsor. They got Wethersfield, East Harvard, and Enfield left. I think they're in great shape. Southington at number 5, 5-3. Glastonbury, which, that could be a tough game. And then Cheshire, we'll see where Cheshire is. But not exactly gimmies for Southington the rest of the way. I still think they're better than both teams right now. So, I don't know. I mean, right now, I should say that. If you put Jeffrey in there, that's going to be tough. But then you have number 7, Stanford, with a big win over Ridgefield. They're right and running. Danbury, West Hill left. They still need those points. They're going to need to win out and then kind of hope things break their way. East Hartford, New Britain, Kennedy, Hampden, and Fairfield Prep. Jeez. Do you think Fairfield Prep might be able to make this beat? Do they beat Notre Dame West
If they go 4-6, I don't know. But look, I will say this. If Fairfield Prep is 3-6 heading into their game against West Haven, they have a chance to get in. I'm rooting for that. I am rooting for the absolute utter chaos of Fairfield Prep getting in at 4-6, playing Greenwich in the first round in a rematch. Oh my God.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy to think.
But you know what? I'll say this. I think Prep is better than the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 teams, 8 teams ahead of them.
I would say, yeah.
If we did Pick'em's Prep against those 8 teams, I'd take Prep every time.
Yeah. Let's take a look and see. I think, well, they obviously beat Hamden. Kennedy, yeah. New Britain, yeah. East Hartford, yeah. Stanford, yeah.
Yeah.
Glastonbury, yeah.
Yeah.
Southington, they would be in a game against Southington. Manchester, I would take Manchester.
Nope.
Staples, West Haven, Greenwich. But
well, we'll see. We'll see against West Haven, though.
We will.
They're going to be going in on a 3-game win streak. You know what? I'm all in. I'm all in on the Jesuits. Let's go. Let's go. Cause chaos. Let's get in as the 8th seed. Come on.
Bring them all back. Guys, we still got a season. Let's go. Don't put
That's
those...
absurd.
Stop taping up those hockey sticks. It is absurd. It just goes to show you how absurd.
Look at their schedule, though. Their Fairfield Prep 6 losses.
Yeah.
Greenwich 8-0, Hand 7-1, Darien 6-2, Cheshire 7-1, North Haven 6-2, Shelton 6-2. There are more wins in their first 2 losses than most of the teams on this board. That's 15 wins between 2 losses. Coggins complaining they beat teams with 11 combined wins. Ludlow too. Oh god.
Yeah. The SEC does it to themselves.
Eat or be eaten.
Yeah. I mean, this idea that all the best teams...
Iron, what is it? Iron sharpens iron. Pressure makes diamonds. Find me another cliche to put on a t-shirt.
The idea that the Alliance guys, Al, and you don't need Cheshire and Shelton and North Haven all beating each other up. It doesn't help. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to the standings here. They're probably to beat all those teams.
So of Manchester,
anything like they were in that game with Greenwich. They're not at 2-16. Like compared to Kennedy 4-4. No.
Compared to Manchester 5-2. Manchester's combined wins of the 5 teams, 7, 8, 9, 9 plus 6, 15. That's Greenwich and Hand combined. Now add the 4 other teams.
Yeah. Listen, you need to bounce.
Wait, would Prep get in? Prep would get in as the 12th seed right now.
Oh.
And they would get Southington. Awesome. So that would be fun.
Well, that's not, I mean, theoretically.
No, I know.
They wouldn't do it. But this idea, though, Al needs to get that out of his head. Stop with the everybody plays it. But yeah, they're competitive games. That's great. But the playoff system doesn't reward competitive games. You actually try to do that. You actually got the CIAC to change their point structure because of the way you run your league and the Alliance, which is, again, the Alliance, I like the idea of crossover games, but not it's ridiculous. Enough.
I'm just saying, I, for one, am excited for when New Canaan has to get on a bus to go to VGW Tech.
Oh, jeez.
That's the only thing I want out of the new proposal, is the first game in Class L is New Canaan on the bus to Vinyl Tech. That's all I want.
We can speculate all we want. I speculated in the guide last week, and I know Jim Uniform was not happy with it. It was a joke, Jim. It was a joke. That's the whole point. It was an exaggeration to design to prove the point. The point is that 12. You don't need 12 teams to play this. It's too much. Too much. I don't care. Anyway. So Pete, that is where we stand in the playoffs. We'll have a lot more on that. We'll be able to start digging into scenarios after this week. This is obviously the week 9-ish, 10. Once you get past this week, you get into those last 2 weeks, you can really start to figure it out. So a guy that won't really need to have that problem other than seeding, because he's already done the calculations. He thinks he's in. But he still has a pretty big game and a game that everyone should be going to on Thursday night. Regardless of what happens, it is what we play football for. It is the neighbor clash of Titans, undefeated team versus undefeated team. Ansonia playing host to Oxford. And here is Oxford coach Joe Stochmal. Joining us on the show is the great former Seymour quarterback, SCSU, and now undefeated, only coach in history at Oxford, the undefeated Joe Stochmal, also multiple state champions at Hill House back in the day, joining us for the first time. It is an honor and a privilege to have you here, Coach. Thanks for joining us.
Well, the honor is all mine, Sean. Appreciate you reaching out and including me in the show.
Well, you guys have certainly earned it. We looked at the season. We're like, man, Oxford, there's been so many good teams that you've had over the years. It just kind of fell short. And if my calculations are correct, it looks like you guys are going to be you're in great shape now to get into the playoffs, to be the first team to get in there. But, just to be 8-0, I guess, at this point. And just what does that mean to you and how you guys have been able to do that this year?
It's great for our kids. These are the kids that started their freshman year in COVID. They didn't have that COVID season. So these kids have worked their tails off. After COVID, we had a very difficult time getting kids out for the football team again, as did most schools in the country. And so for them to be 8-0 right now, after putting in all that work, a lot of these kids are 3-year starters for us, and they're reaping the benefits of that playing time now. So we're real happy for our kids, really happy for our community. The community has been great, a lot of support. They come out at the games and really show their support to our kids. So it's been great for our kids. It's been great for our coaching staff, who has worked tirelessly to put our kids in a good position each week. We try to go 1-0 each week. We preach that to our kids. We don't look ahead to any other game, and it's been working for us so far. So just happy for our kids and our community.
Did you think you could have a special group this year for the season?
We did. A lot of these kids, we have 10 seniors, and a lot of those kids have played for 4 years and have a lot of experience for 3 of those years. So we did think that we had something special coming back. Anytime you have an athlete the caliber of Matthew McGuire, and you sprinkle in an Aiden Sill and a Michael Dorsch and a Michael Rich and Landon Brooks. Mark Palmero has been kicking the ball great for us. He has 6 for 6 in field goals this year. We really did think we had a lot of the pieces, and we just needed to get our kids to start believing. And I think that victory over Seymour in week 3 really got our kids believing that they can be something special this year.
Yeah, that was the one that we were both at, Pete and I. It was a Thursday night up at Seymour, and the thing that really stuck out was, first of all, it was the game that Matt McGuire, who we love, and it was his big coming out game. He broke his collarbone the year before against Seymour. He just came out like a man possessed, and even when he went down, maybe it looked like he was hurt himself again, broken again, and but his teammates picked him up. What has he meant for you guys? He just provided that little spark, that made kind of everybody elevates their game. They're giving him hugs on the sidelines, everything. And he's so emotional after the game. It seems like a lot of your players really kind of feed off his energy.
Yeah, they do, and Matt's a special player. He's not only just because of his skill level, but he knows the game. He loves the game. He studies a lot of film. And that really gives him an edge when we play some of our opponents, and the kids feed off of his heart. He's got a great heart. He loves the game. He wants to be so successful, not only individually but as a team. That's why he's one of our captains. He's a great leader. Our guys follow him. And he sets the great example for other kids to follow.
Yeah, Coach, you guys are 8-0. Sean talked glowingly about it. I got to ask you though, how have you been able to coach through 4 one-possession games? I mean, you don't have any more hair to lose, but 4 one-possession games. I mean, the heart. You got the EKG machine working just to make sure you're good after each week.
Well, the first thing I do every morning is take my blood pressure pills. So that's the first thing. After that, I've been doing this a long time now. 10 years at Hill House as an offensive coordinator under Eric Barbarito. And, 17 years now here at Oxford I coached a couple of years at my alma mater, Southern Connecticut. So I'm almost at that 30-year mark now coaching the game, and to be perfectly honest with you, I get motivated and I get excited, but these games are for our kids. The kids are the ones who are out there playing the game, and us as coaches, we need to keep a level head on that sideline and just try and put our kids in the best position to win those games. And it's a true testament to our kids that they don't lose those games. A sign of a good team is to win the close ones, and our kids don't buckle under pressure. So we have been fortunate enough to win those games, those close games, and I think moving forward for the remainder of the season, it's going to benefit us if we are in a close game.
Yeah, I mean, is there, obviously, the WCA game, the Waterbury career, that was 6. Obviously, Seymour came down to it. Has it gotten to the point where, okay, so the Woodland game, you guys have won 2 close games. Now you're in the Woodland game. Was there a level of comfortability, or the team wasn't kind of overthinking it? They were comfortable being in that situation.
Yeah, at halftime we're down 13-0, and we just came. We brought the kids together, and we started to go over some adjustments that we discussed amongst the coaches, and we just told them. I said, hey, we've been in this position before. You're down 14-0 to Seymour, and you fought back, or 7-0 to Seymour, and you fought back, and you took a lead 14-7, and we were comfortable. Our kids didn't waver. They believed in themselves, and sometimes it just takes that Uncle Mo to get turned a little bit, and then you have that belief again, and that's what happened. We hit a couple of big plays before the half against Woodland, and then we came out and we threw a trick play at them, and that worked. And I think you felt that momentum swing. When Palmero kicked that field goal to put us within 3, our kids were flying off of the field and getting ready for kickoff, and you saw their kids' heads dip a little bit, and that's big in high school football. If you can get Uncle Mo on your side, it's a good place to be.
Tell me about Coach. We talk a lot about Matt, but he's kind of plays a lot of different places. You got Dorsch in there too at quarterback. He goes down. Matt helps you out. Helps you, slides into that spot. But he's been able to, also allow you to do different things on offense. How has that helped you out?
Oh, it's been great. It was a blessing in disguise. I never want to see a kid get hurt, but when Matt went down and Michael had to fill in at quarterback last year, he gained valuable experience, and he did a great job for us. He put up some tremendous stats, and he's comfortable in that position. So this year, we wanted to keep Michael on the field, and he's a very skilled athlete. He can catch the ball. So, we put him out as an X, and we put McGuire in at Q, and we'll swap them out. We'll put Matt out there and Michael at quarterback, and he's the one that threw the ball to Matt to tie the game with Seymour, that out pass that Matt took the distance. So it's been great. And there are times, where we put them in the backfield together and do some things off of that. So having that versatility and that depth, right? Because Michael got hurt. He hurt his ankle against Woodland, and Matt jumped in after that and led us to the victory. And so, the two of them, I can't tell you how proud I am of their being so unselfish. They really don't care who plays quarterback or who plays receiver, and that goes for all of our kids. Like, our kids don't care who scores the touchdowns. They don't care who makes the tackle on the 4th and goal line. They just want so badly to win, and they're really happy when someone else does well, and that's that's very rare in this day and age, to have a bunch of teenage men not care about themselves. And You see it on TV all the time, right? Everybody's pointing a finger at themselves. They're after they pick off a ball, they run to the end zone and look for the cameras, right? Our guys don't do that. Our guys look for each other. They celebrate with each other, and that's really something to be said about a team that cares so much about each other.
Any other guys we're missing here that really have been a big spark plug for you guys so far?
Yeah, I mean, it's really I can name you 25 guys, and I'm being all serious, right? Like Robert Minio is a junior wide receiver for us. He had an outstanding game against Woodland, caught many passes on pressure situations, third down situations, third and long situations. He came through for us big time in that game. Aiden Sill has been lights out as our safety this year. He's constantly getting 10 or 11 tackles a game. We have a junior, Xavier Texera, who plays inside linebacker. He's been our second leading tackler for the year. Landon Brooks is an unsung hero. He's an offensive guard who leads our teams in pancakes and leads our team in tackles. He's an emotional kid who plays with a lot of energy. Michael Brooks is only two-time captain in our history. He's our center and our nose guard. Michael doesn't get any credit ever, but he's the guy that takes up two offensive linemen so that Brooks and Texera can be free and scrape and make tackles. Oh, yeah. Nate Wolniak, we put him in as our short snapper. He's been our long snapper and punt. He's our right tackle. He's 160 pounds soaking wet, but that kid is a wrestler. And he is a real tough kid that doesn't care who he's going against. He's got the mindset that he's going to defeat that person, on every play. So we really just have Chris Bobby, right? He's an unsung hero. He's got about 4 touchdowns for us this year rushing, but he does a lot of the dirty work, and he plays linebacker for us, outside backer. He comes up, and when he hits you, you're going to have a headache the next day. He lays the wood. So, we have so many kids that are making differences. Chase Galosdra is a sophomore. He picked off a pass against St. Paul and took it the distance for a touchdown. We pop him in there an outside backer because Dorse was injured, and he did a great job for us. So I can go on and on naming guys that have made big contributions to our success this year. And that's really a great thing. It's not just one guy.
Now you got the big one. Everyone's been kind of waiting for it. You win a bunch of games, you beat Seymour, you take care of business. Now you got to go down the field. You got to go down to your old haunt there, or well, not your old haunt, but you got to go down to Nolan Jarvis Stadium. Got to play undefeated Ansonia, the benchmark in the NBL. This is what you want. This is what you want. Valley football. You grew up there. Taking on Ansonia undefeated. You can't ask for anything more than that, right, Coach?
Yeah, this is going to be a great challenge for us, and we welcome the opportunity. We know the tradition of Ansonia football. I've lived it all my life as a resident of Seymour and playing against them. They're a well-run program. Tommy Brockett is an outstanding coach, and he's got an outstanding staff. Their kids are always well prepared. And I got to say this about Ansonia. Their kids are always so classy. Like they don't flaunt it. When we play them every year, they know they're a good team, but they never showboat or anything like that. And that's a credit to those coaches in Ansonia. That they don't allow for that to happen. And so, it's a great challenge for us. They're loaded again this year. I'll tell you, from a offensive coordinator standpoint, they're multiple on defense. They like to change their fronts from an odd front to an even front. They'll put 6 guys in the box or 7 guys in the box or 5 in the box, and they're always going to play you in man coverage. They're going to man you up and try and use their skill level and their talent. Ingram is a great player. The kid Romeo Charles is their other corner. He's another great player. You have Christian Fogel, is a young sophomore who plays free safety for them. He's an outstanding player. Palmer is a great player for them too, and they have two inside backers in Richards and Whittle that are physical. They're big. They're strong. They cover well. Up front, you got the young Romanowski kid. That's the brother of the All-State Romanowski. Yeah. He's having a great season. Zubina. They're loaded on defense with talent. And so, it's going to be a great challenge for us. But, our kids are pretty physical. And if we have an opportunity to be physical with them, that's what Valley football, that's what I grew up on. That's what I was a part of. And that's what Valley football is really all about. It's a backyard brawl. You're going down to 5 minutes down the road to play against guys that you're going to see at Dutch's or McDonald's or Burger King on Division Street. And, this is what high school football should be all about.
Yeah.
Coach, obviously, you're going Dutchess?
Yeah, 100%. They closed the one in Hampton. I'm so upset. Long time.
There's a Dutchess down the block from me in Monroe, and I'm indifferent.
My cousin was a huge Dutchess guy, God rest his soul, but great, huge slam. I'm a huge Dutchess guy, but go ahead, Pete.
Now, Coach, obviously, if you're going to ask people around the Valley, obviously everyone's going to go with Ansonia on this one. You talk about it being a backyard brawl, and so what are you guys doing to pump these kids up for this game? Are you pulling out some old footage of your days playing Valley football at Seymour? Maybe some clips, maybe some pump up music. Is there a movie? Do you have a speech written? Like, what are we doing to get these boys up for this game this weekend?
So we have a lot of things that we're doing, and I can't divulge them over the air right now, but I will tell you this: one of them includes a very motivational video that we're going to play for the kids before we get on the bus. We have signs on their lockers that we post anytime we play a Valley school. We always call it Wildcat Week or Hawk Week. This week is Charger Week, and so we come up with a little slogan. And this week's slogan is "Unplug the Charger," right? So we got to try and unplug them. They've been plugged in for how many years? Just winning games every week and winning NVL championships and state championships, and their electricity, man. They're never off. They're always on. So it's going to be a great challenge for us to try and go down there and steal a victory away from them. But we do have a lot of motivational things that we do with our kids from week to week. I did tell them, back in my playing days, my junior year, we were fortunate enough to go down to Jarvis and beat them in week 1. It was the first time Seymour had ever beaten Ansonia, and I told them it's no greater feeling than to walk off that field, victorious. And our kids have an opportunity to do that this year. So, that's something that you don't typically get to be able to say. Charger Week.
So I'm going to ask you this because I love that so much. So no phone chargers allowed in the locker rooms in the office, like you see them throwing them out.
I don't let phones anywhere near me during football, so they don't allow them.
I thought it was full
they know not to bring them out. So.
I would just to see just your garbage pail full of iPhone chargers. Be on Ansonia Week, no phone chargers allowed.
We don't want to unplug our chargers. We want to unplug.
So, Coach, you talk about this game being a special Valley game and all that good stuff, an electric tradition here. I mean, kind of backtracking a little bit. I guess the big news this week was the proposal by Al Carbone and the Alliance guys. You're on the football committee. I know you don't speak for them there. But when you see something out there like that, it's fundamentally looks like it would change fundamentally how we run football in the state, kind of moving rivalries to the middle of the season. maybe kind of mixing up who they play. I mean, based on what you've seen and what we've reported so far, what is your personal take on it, and what have you heard people's reactions to it?
So I'm speaking for myself.
Yes.
And some of the coaches that I've spoken to about this proposal. All the coaches that I've spoken to are against it. There's so many reasons why they're against it, and I'm against it. I believe there's not a lot that's wrong with our playoff format now and our scheduling format now, and adding more teams, I think, is going to be a detriment to our playoff system. You're going to end up with teams with 2 wins or 3 wins in a season that are going to make the playoffs. And, not the coaches, not the parents, not the players, not the communities. They don't want to play a playoff game if they're not having a successful season, right? So making the playoffs is, for the first time, if we're lucky to get into the playoffs, our kids are excited about that. Our kids are proud of that, earning that. We were 8-2 a couple of years that we finished 9th, and it was a disappointment for us, but we understood that we didn't do enough that season to get us into the playoffs. And so, to be having teams, with 2 or 3 wins, I don't see how that benefits us in our state. The other big thing is Thanksgiving. They want to talk about how there's only 37 games. Well, that's on Thanksgiving, but what about Thanksgiving Eve? There's another 20 games on Thanksgiving Eve. You're talking about almost 60 games now that you're going to be moving to when? Columbus Day? How does that make any sense at all? Columbus Day, kids don't come home from college Columbus Day weekend. They come home from college for Thanksgiving. And the alumni, the families, the communities that are around Thanksgiving Day rivalry, you're going to just throw that all away. That's going to damage communities. Not to mention, money's involved here. And you tell me Ansonia and Naugatuck don't play, you're taking away $10,000, maybe more, on their gate. And with the state of athletics and the way that Board of Ed budgets are nowadays, you don't get a lot of money in athletics, and that helps to purchase uniforms, or not only for the football team but for all other sports. So you're going to take away a big gate. Stratford, Bunnell, Law, Foreign, Seymour, Woodland on the eve, Ansonia, Naughty, Darien, New Canaan. I mean, I can go on and on. You guys know the games. Those are great games, and we're throwing away that history for what? Like, I don't understand the purpose of what they're trying to accomplish. They haven't sent a formal proposal to the committee, so I have seen it, but I've only seen it because it's been sent to me by media outlets. I think the biggest problem I have with how this came out is, number one, it came out during football season. We have teams that are vying for playoffs right now, and the spotlight should be on those teams and those programs. Instead, they stole the spotlight away from those kids, and that's horrible. That's just they could have waited to the end of the season. Yeah, they could have waited till the end of the season to see if there was support for this. But they didn't, and so I have an issue with that. I have a problem with them not following the process. If they wanted to discuss this, and they said in that article that this has been a conversation that's gone on for 2 years, I have not been included in that conversation, and I am on the football committee, and I'm a head coach for 17 years. So how am I not included in that conversation if it has been going on for 2 years? That's another question that I want to ask them. But I'm against it.
Yeah, what process would they need to go? Let's that aside. What process would they? I saw somebody say that this could be in place next year, and I find that hard to believe, just given you have to have your schedules done you basically have your schedules set by the end of December at least, right? Usually these leagues do. I don't know, how do you make such a drastic decision like that very quickly? I mean, you know the process, so you can kind of educate us a little bit about that.
Well, I think they're speaking out of turn. Number one, like they want it done next year, but they got to follow the process, and the process is. And I'm not sure about this, but I don't know how the alliance can be making a formal proposal because I believe the CIAC only accepts formal proposals from leagues, and the alliance is not a league. So, I don't know how they've made this proposal. I know that they've included Mark Berkowitz, who is the AD at Weston, and I think they're trying to maybe go through him to get this proposal through. But the proposal I saw, the heading says from the alliance. That's the first issue that we have to tackle. And then once the proposal is submitted, it'll go through the board at the CIAC level, and then they'll send it to the football committee, and then we'll take a look at it. I think once we have it, we'll probably put a survey together and ask coaches what their feelings are on the proposal. That's going to take time, and then we have to decide as a committee if this is what's best for football in the state or if we think it's not. Yeah. And if we do think it's good for the state, then we will bring it back to the CIAC, and if we don't, we'll kill it.
Well, Coach, you bring up the survey. Obviously, this is a proposal, so things could be rearranged and changed like in any proposal. But you bring up a survey, and the question that I had, and I'm, we've spoken about this. Like, I like Thanksgiving football, I like all that stuff. But if you go back 2 years ago, when the system expanded from 4 divisions to 6 divisions, right? 8 teams in each division. We added 16 new playoff teams to a system. Many people were against it, and the numbers reported at the time for the Coaches Association survey was that 88% of coaches were in favor of expanding the playoffs. Do you think that a lot of that 88% would be in favor of this proposal because it would be expanding the playoffs to 12 teams in those 6 divisions?
I really can't answer that, Pete, because I don't want to speak on behalf of coaches that I have not spoken to yet. I think with the coaches that I have spoken to, they're very comfortable with the schedules as is right now within their leagues. And they're very comfortable with the format that's in place right now. The number 8 for 6 divisions is worked out well. And you got a team like Shelton that got beat up a little bit last year and went 5-5, but they're an 8 seed and they knock off number 1. So I think in situations like that, the system has proven that we're in a good spot right now. I do think if we expand that even more, you're going to get leakage of 4 and 3 win teams, and it won't bode well for those teams. So that's the way that I think most coaches will answer that question, but I don't want to speak for them.
Of course, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say you got to have the goal of something. Like you got to have I know like football is it's just a different sport. A lot of these guys equate it to like basketball and things like that. And why does basketball get 40% in it? And I'm like, guys, you're not playing basketball, but you're playing football. It's a week event. Every week is a big event. So those games have to carry weight and to kind of just and I know it's tough when you lose 2 or 3 games and you see your playoff hopes fading. And I think we've corrected that. I didn't think we needed to go 6, but hey, I'm in the minority. I don't know. And then I see, a couple teams going in at 5-5, and it just, I don't know. It just doesn't seem to really rub me the right way. I feel like there still needs to be some, and I think you agree with me, Coach. There still needs to be some hey, listen, there's nothing wrong with going 5-5 and missing the playoffs, or 6-4 and missing the playoffs. 7-3, you're on the cusp, but there are teams just better than you, and you just kind of have to accept that. I don't think that's a bad lesson to learn.
No, I would agree with that. We tell our kids all the time, you learn more from failure than you do from success. And, and you try to teach, once you have failures in your life, you try and teach to correct them and then not do them again. And so, if you go 7-3, that's a great season. If you don't make the playoffs, then, he still had a great season. There's nothing that has to be taken away from that. But I think there are some coaches out there who have difficulties with their schedules, and Al's the commissioner of the SEC. The most coaches that I hear complaining about their schedules is the SEC coaches.
Yeah.
And and Al's also the commissioner of the Alliance. Well, maybe he needs to work on the SEC schedule a little bit more, and he can figure out ways that he can make their league better. But I don't think he needs to step in, and I'm not sure why he has been given this platform to be able to have a voice in the fact that the state of Connecticut football is in disarray, because I don't see it that way. I think we're stronger now. If you look at the numbers, we've had more kids coming out for football, since COVID hit over the last year and a half, and I think we're going to continue to grow. And I think our leagues are in good positions. I think our playoff system is in a good position. Do I think that we can do better and make some tweaks to our system? 100%. I have a lot of ideas. I welcome Al to come and sit down and discuss them with me. But I don't know why they came out with this proposal publicly. I think that it could have been done behind closed doors, and we probably could have gotten a better plan in place than the one that is being proposed.
And besides, you just got a Thanksgiving Day game. You guys, Oxford for 10 years never had Thanksgiving. You get Derby, which I think is a great matchup. And being from Seymour, you never even played Thanksgiving really at all, if I remember. You played Amity. You played the week before.
Yeah, so that's right. We played the Saturday before with Amity at Seymour. Yeah. Yeah, but Derby is a great fit. Two small schools, right next door to each other. Great tradition in Derby, and we're trying to, forge that here in Oxford. And, I think it's just, I think Jeremy Clark has done an outstanding job as the head coach at Derby. He's really invested in that program. He's got those kids lifting all season, off season. He takes them to the camps. He does passing leagues. He does everything that you should be doing to promote your program and get your kids invested. And he's done a great job of that. So, we're real happy with our Thanksgiving Day opponent. And, we're starting new traditions. We got the boot now. We play for the boot.
Nice.
There's a nice backstory to that. And, it's just, I think Thanksgiving needs to stay.
Coach, thank you so much. We appreciate, giving your, like you said, you've been around a long time. You've coached a lot of teams, and I'd love to see you in this position. And Greg, give us some of your perspective on the future of football. And right now, and I would agree with you. I think it's I've had my quibbles with the way the things are done now. But if you ask me, compare this division compared to this proposal, I say keep 6 divisions and keep Thanksgiving. So, Coach, listen, good luck on Thursday night. Big game in the Valley. Be there or be square. You have no excuses. You must go see. Oxford is playing has a great season, and they're playing Ansonia, so you can't get better than that. We love Valley football. Coach, thanks a lot for joining us. We'll see you out there.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thanks, Pete. Thanks, Sean. Have a good one.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach. So, Pete, JOE STOCHMAL. I did not expect to have him on that long. We got to wrap this thing up. But, some great points by Joe. I'm with him 100% on this idea that, again, I mentioned at the top, that football is it's about your neighbors. It's about the event. It's not about getting everybody into the playoffs. That was the thing that really resonated with me. The other thing that resonated with me is that the SEC does this to itself. We're basically, these guys want to take their brand to the rest of the state, and there's a lot of pushback against that. And like you said, maybe it's not as universal as the loudest guys are talking. So, and maybe down the road, Pete, Thanksgiving will have to go because people, once again, football playoffs, they're just, everyone wants, they want that instant gratification. And it's getting tougher, by the way. You only have 2 weeks after, and it's getting tougher to kind of justify playing 3 games after Thanksgiving. So that's, again, enough.
I mean, it's just wildly unsafe, but we only care about that stuff during the regular season.
Well, in quick defense of that, the medical community did sign off on it when they did allow.
In Connecticut, but in another person that we spoke to from Massachusetts, they did not like that. So,
yeah, listen, but if it was up to me, I would say go back to the way we did it. But let's go back to 6 divisions, 4 each. 1 game, 2 games, get out of here. And, you won't hear anything from me. I won't be like, well, too bad we can't play this team. And the other thing I say would fix that up is if you somehow got all the best teams together in the division, maybe an open division. So, but there's a lot.
That would be. I think an open division for football would be really hard because, where do you stick Bloomfield and Ansonia?
I know. Should they be playing in it?
They can't. They shouldn't be. That's just unsafe to have them on the field against the Southington or Fairfield prep that runs 90 kids out. I mean, that's just
have 2 here. I actually like my last week idea. You have 3 playoff divisions divided in half. You have the Division 2, and they play for a title. And if you win, you move up to Division 1. You stay there for 5 years. Whatever. I don't know. There's lots of different ideas. I just don't like giving Randy Thanksgiving. I think that needs to stay. That's just my 2 cents. And Joe, I'm glad to hear he's with me on that. Even though he didn't play on Thanksgiving, and even though, even as Oxford coach or Seymour quarterback, which I find hysterical. Hill House, yeah, but hey. So thanks to Joe coming on. Listen, that's gonna be a fun game on Thursday night. Everyone should go. Just to say. I mean, I don't expect Oxford to. I expect them to show up. I don't know. We'll see. But that is that, Pete. Let's get to our shout outs for this week. I kind of have some options out here for you. And your favorite part, shout outs. What do you got, Pete? Want to start?
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Yeah, I'm going to go first on this one. It's my first shout out. I'm going to give it to Joshua Turner of Griswold Wheeler. We talked about it quickly, but he made the game-saving tackle on Stonington's Patrick McGugan, just shy of the goal line at the buzzer to preserve a 33-30 win for the Griswold Wheeler Co-op. This team I wrote about in the preview. When I did their preview, they have been under 500 twice in the last 15 seasons. In the last 15 seasons, they are 87-62, which is a 58 winning percentage, and they had never made the playoffs. This is a massive win for them on their road in Class S to hopefully make the playoffs, kind of break that streak. So shout out Josh, shout out to Griswold Wheeler. Hopefully they'll be going to the playoffs to break that streak.
I know Griswold Wheeler, they're big GameTimeCT fans, and we try. We need to get out and see them a little bit more. They do a great job. Greg Wilcox does a great job, and that was a big win. Patrick McGugan getting that ball, that's the right call for Stoney. He's the best player, and for them to stop him, that's pretty good. Pete, I'm going to go back to the SEC. Brady Rasacci of Sheehan having a really great year, and against Law, 35-6, 304 yards on 37 carries and 2 touchdowns, carrying the load there and getting Sheehan back into a good spot there in the Class S standings. Paul Goriel's had a great game, 200 yards of passing, but Rasacci, another great night for him. Sheehan,
I think we need shirts. Davis, Bogan, Davis, Rasacci.
With the question mark.
Just saying. He's only a sophomore.
That's impressive. Yeah.
All right, next up, I got Jalen Martinez from Naugatuck. Did a little bit of everything. 2 rushing touchdowns on 60 yards. He had a blocked punt, and he had an interception. All he was missing was like a sack to do what Myles Garrett does every week for the Cleveland Browns. Naugatuck beat Crosby 49-18. Jet Hall is our guy on the show, but Naugatuck's got some other dude.
Yeah. Big time. I'm going to go with Aiden Barbie of Granby Canton in their big 22-6 victory over Cromwell Portland. Barbie returned, had a big kickoff return, and then had a long run off a screen pass to set up 2 of his 3 touchdowns, all 3 of them, in fact, as Granby Canton finally, for the first time, defeats Cromwell Portland and almost solidifies its spot in the upcoming Class SS playoff. Pete.
All right, next up, I'm going to go with a name that we've talked about kind of sometimes on this show. He's been a starter. This is his 3rd year. It's Guilford quarterback Tyler Hilgert. He was 17 for 23, threw for 261 yards and 5 touchdowns, rushed for another touchdown as Guilford keeps their playoff hopes alive with a 54-14 win over East Lyme. Hell of a game, Tyler.
Pete, I'm going to go to the FCAC, and Brian Augustin of Stanford. He had a sack, forced fumble, and a couple passes defended in a 37-7 victory over Ridgefield. Stanford trying to get into the Class AA playoffs. They went a long way in doing that with their win over Ridgefield. That's big time. So go Stanford. Nice job, Brian Augustin. Pete.
All right, I'm going to go to the CTC, and this is a guy that we've talked about, but I just look at his numbers each week and I shake my head, and it's Ben Roden, quarterback at Northwest United. He was 21 for 25, 232 yards and 5 touchdowns in a 46-8 win over O'Brien Tech. This kid's completion percentage has to be getting close to 80%. If not, is 80%. He is the best player in the CTC.
Oh, yeah, by far. Pete, I'm going to go over to the Pequot again and pick freshman Trevor Powell, who completed 24 passes. I don't know how many attempts it was, but 24 passes for 370 yards and 3 touchdowns as the Morgan Co-op took care of business over Ellington, 30-22. He's going to be a good one down the road. He got pressed into service because of an injury to their starting quarterback, and I thought it was curtains for Morgan, but Kevin Sullivan's guys are right in the thick of the playoff race there. We'll see. Wes Percival also had 11 catches in that game, 172 yards in a score. But good job by the freshman, Pete.
Is it? Are we seeing the next coming of Drew Nye? But another Drew Nye, quarterback throwing the ball all around the field, sounds right up Coach Sullivan's alley. All right, my next one, I'm staying in the CTC. Okay, going with Rikishi Saunders from ATI. Get this stat line. He threw 5 passes, completed them all for 136 yards and 2 touchdowns. Then he ran the ball 3 times for 31 yards and another touchdown. And then he caught 4 passes for 90 yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. In ATI's 41-0 win over Cheney Tech. Chris, Coach Pace, why was this the first we're hearing of this kid? I mean, that is a do it all right there for Mr. Saunders. Hell of a game.
Yeah, and they need every win they can get. There's just big ones coming up. ATI's got Bullard Havens, and then there's, I think they also have Northwest Catholic.
Northwest United.
Yeah, Northwest
United.
Northwest United. So, yeah, a very fascinating game. My last one is going to be a guy who used to be in the CIAC, but now no longer. He was former Fairfield Ward quarterback. We talked a lot about him last year, but Charlie Goodwin of Hamden Hall. He completed 11 of 15 passes, 277 yards, and 3 touchdowns as the Hornets. Team Joe Linta, the Hornets clinched at least a share of the Evergreen League Championship, 45-30 at home versus Greenwich Country Day. Linta's squad can win it outright and get a top bowl bid in the NEPSAC as if they beat Proctor Academy way up there in New Hampshire on Friday night. So congratulations to Charlie Goodwin. Great game. I saw them at the beginning of the season, Pete, and they lost. He's like, Joe Linta is like, you got to see us. We have our best team ever. They lost the first game. But they've won every one since. I think they're 7. I think they're at least 6-1 now. So good job by Charlie. Yeah, he's a good quarterback.
We'll put that right up there with Shelton's 2022 team. That was the best since Dan Orlovsky.
Yeah. Oh man, so that's it, right? Those are our shout-outs. Plenty of other guys out there did a good job, but we can only have 5 each. So good job of the shout-outs there.
Speaking of the prep schools, Pete, on Saturday night, I was over at Choate's Wilkin Field for the a year-long anticipated game. Avon Old Farms, undefeated. Choate, undefeated. Game of the year, right? For the Founders League Championship, and who would represent the league, at least in that NEPSAC overall championship bowl game in 2 weeks. Last year, they met in week 3, and Georgia commit Ryan Puglisi rallied Avon Old Farms from 23 down in the second quarter, but Choate hung on with a batted down 2-point conversion pass to end the game 36-35. This time they were playing in the penultimate game of the regular season, both teams coming in with 6-0 records, and the place was mobbed. At least 1,500 spectators, upwards of 2,500 in attendance, including a boisterous Avon Old Farms student section who showed up en masse and made their presence known early throughout the game. Despite both teams having high-powered offenses, it was a defensive struggle with a few offensive haymakers thrown in. Puglisi had the first one, hitting Connor Cronin with his great 55-yard pass to get into striking distance, and Caron Craig takes it in 12 yards out and then runs for another 10 to give his mom a big old hug. 7-0 Avon Old Farms. Choate driving late in the first half, and Pearson Hill, the Brown commit out of West Haven, gets smacked by Cronin and fumbles, recovered by Carson Klein to end the threat. But no, was ruled down, and Choate keeps possession inside the 20. Let's take a look at that again. It's pretty obvious that Cronin hits Hill upright and jars the ball loose. It's clearly a fumble and should have been Avon ball, but Choate retains possession. Avon Old Farms coach John Whyyy and Paul Pasquale just can't believe it on the sideline. It would be the first of many calls that they would scratch their head about. So a lot of Avon fans would scratch their head about later on in the game. But the Boars take immediate advantage. 2 plays later, Nick Rubino out of Miami hits Jaden Spain with this great throw, and even better catch, falling back in the end zone to tie the score at 7-7 halftime. Third quarter, the defensive struggle continued. Both defenses playing great until finally Avon Old Farms decides to move the ball on the ground, and they had great success getting inside the 20, and then Puglisi hitting Cronin on this short pass down to the 1. He just barely missed it getting in, but no worries. Owen Moreland finished it off from there. Beavers with the 14-7 lead. But just before the end of the third quarter, here's Spain again. Look, West Point kid, son of an Army colonel, and the current New York State Scholastic record holder in the 55-meter dash, hauls in this 40-yard touchdown pass for Rubino to tie it up at the end of 3. Exciting fourth quarter coming up, you'd think, right? Well, the game suddenly became bogged down in an officiating nightmare. Flag after flag after flag. Procedure penalties after procedure penalties. False starts. You name it. Avon had 1st and 10 from the Choate 20. It turned into a 4th and 35. Beavers have to punt. After a few more possessions of this, Choate finally gets the ball back just beyond midfield with 1:39 remaining and a chance to win the game. And on 4th and 7 from inside the 30 and 14 seconds left, Hill took a reverse down to the 26, and Choate somehow gets up, gets set, and spikes the ball with 4.5 seconds left. Now, plenty of people on the Avon Old Farms sideline screaming bloody murder. Why isn't the clock starting? Why aren't they set? What's going on? I don't really know the answer to that. Even John Whyyy was wondering, whether they had enough time. But Choate got the ball, spiked it, 4.5 seconds left. That is just enough time for junior Mark Capacetti, who'd only kicked 1 field goal in his entire career, and that was the week before, a 45-yarder against Loomis Chafee. And that was because Mac Dumont, their regular starter, he got hurt celebrating a kickoff. And in came Capacetti. They figured this was going to be it, or we go to overtime. And Capacetti, the snap was low, but the holder gets down, and Capacetti nails it. 43 yards out, no time left. Once again, Choate's student body rushing out to the field to celebrate the 17-14 victory with their football team. The Wild Boars, undefeated again, walk off on Avon Old Farms, and Avon Old Farms just crestfallen. And here's the hero, Mark Capacetti.
I've had 1 attempted field goal all year, and that came last week against Loomis. And it's just exciting getting out there. I mean, that's all anybody dreams for. That's all any kicker could imagine. And it's the best feeling ever, seeing it come off your foot, go through the uprights in any situation. I mean, especially in a situation like that.
He is a very talented kicker, and he'll be a prospect at any level. But he's been playing behind our man Mac Dumont, who just tore his ACL. We won't talk about how celebrating a kickoff, but it gave Mark an incredible opportunity, and he took advantage of it.
Tell me about the kick he made. You think he could do it, or were you nervous?
Obviously, I was holding Jaden and Blaze's hand. I was so nervous. But I knew if we came down to overtime, we'd bear down and get the job done either way. So I'm so thankful for Cap. He did a great job, and it's awesome to see.
Just full, and just so proud of these kids. It was an awesome game. That's a great team, well-coached team, talented team, and our boys stepped up and played for each other and did an awesome job.
We didn't make. At the end of the day, I'm never going to be a finger pointer. I'm going to be a thumb guy, and our team is going to be. And we didn't make enough plays that, given the circumstances of how it would go to win, and Choate did. And credit to them, and they made a great kick at the end. And I think we're the two best teams in New England, and I truly believe that. And, in my heart, I think we are. But the ball didn't bounce our way, and Coach Bunnell and their staff did a great job. And I have no more respect for him than anybody in New England. He's one of the best coaches there is, and probably the best in the history of prep school. I mean, he's done a great job.
You also heard from Choate coach LJ Spinato. You heard from Nick Rubino, the quarterback, and a clearly frustrated John Whyyy. Still, he says the best two teams in New England. Cheshire Academy lost to Salisbury a couple weeks ago. And Avon Old Farms, if they go up there and beat Salisbury, maybe is there a chance that they could play that overall NEPSAC championship bowl game? Probably not going to do that. I don't see the NEPSAC bowl committees doing that. But hey, there are a lot of one-loss teams out there. I would not be shocked to see anything. Avon Farms, they're 6-1. They're in there with Cheshire Academy, a bunch of others. But Choate is the only unbeaten team. So they can take care of at Deerfield. They play at Deerfield. They can take care of business. They will at least be the ones to make that overall game. We'll see what happens. Who they play, it all depends on games next week. Avon Old Farms plays Salisbury, and we shall see. So fascinating goings on in the NEPSAC. So that'll be it for this edition of the Meat Grinder, Pete. Very busy week past and a very week ahead. We're getting to crunch time. The days are getting shorter, but the action's heating up. So for Pete Quagga, I'm John Patrick Bully. This has been the Meat Grinder and GameTimeCT.
Love you all.